Hello, everyone. This is James Knight, founder of Gentle Somatic Yoga. And I'm here today to have a chat with my dear friend and spiritual mentor, Tony Petrinovich. Tony has been a longtime mentor for me, probably 10 years, and has helped me transition through through many life experiences, a lot of challenges. And Tony, I want to thank you so much for being such an intimate part of my life.
You're
Your
welcome.
work,
The ups and the downs.
what?
The ups and the downs.
The ups and the downs. Yes, exactly. That's important to say the ups as well as the downs.
Oh, lots of ups, lots of ups.
Lots of ups. Yeah, I was just thinking about one of the first times that I started working with you and I was going through a breakup.
Mhm.
And of course, your style. Well, first of all, I should tell you, the viewer, that Tony is an intuitive and she does readings. And so I think no, actually, I first came to you because one of my friends bought one of the courses that you offer, and with it came an angel reading,
Uh-huh.
an angelic human reading.
Right.
So my first personal experience of you was, I think, when you did the reading for me, and yeah, that's where my whole life just did a 360.
So good to hear. Yes, I love doing readings. Usually, I end up doing readings for people first when they first come into my world, when they first meet me or are referred to me. It's a good way for people to get to know my style and how I talk. And then usually they end up taking courses. Sometimes during the readings, I'll suggest a course because it feels as though that would be appropriate for whatever they're experiencing. But the reading for you was beautiful, and it really led to an enormous change in your life. And you have really picked up that ball and gone with it. It's amazing, James, what you have created.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, gosh, I remember in that reading you were helping identify, the particular message that I came in with.
Mhm.
And since then, which was about 10 years ago, I've really refined that message.
Yes.
And doing the course, I don't remember it was that one because I've done most of your courses, not the most
Mhm.
recent ones, but certainly a lot of your courses. And I'll never forget that you asked me to list 100 of my top passions
Uh-huh.
and narrow it down to one or maybe two.
Right.
And that, with everything we've been talking about, that just helped. I guess the word I would say was I just remembered. I just came into my complete inner yes,
Right.
and I did that assignment, and I was surprised that I could come up with 100 things that I was passionate about, and got all the way down to gentle somatic yoga and sacred design using
Right.
architecture and interiors.
Mhm.
And that's when gentle somatic yoga was born. So you were highly influential with helping me remember, um, what I love, what I'm passionate about.
Gentle somatic yoga doula. That's wonderful. That could be my title.
That's so
One
true.
of the things that happens when you do that, what you're just describing, is take that 100 things and most people don't think, like you said, that they have 100 things that they're passionate about, but it's easy to find them, is that you refine and you refine through the dissolution, if you would, of the belief systems that you're holding about what is important until you get down to that one or two that really means something to you. And that's how you change your life. Because most people are pretty scattered. They've got stuff going on all over the place. But when you get down to that one or two, especially if the person has the courage, like you did and you do, to say, okay, this is where my passion lies. Now I'm going to jump into this with both feet and I'm going to go for it. That's one of the things that a lot of people just don't have the courage to do. It's one of the reasons I created my Art of Creation course, which is my newest course, with the exception of the one that's coming out next week, to really refine what you want to create in your life and what's keeping you from being in your own authority because of the beliefs that you have. And one of the things that you did, James, was to just absolutely decimate those beliefs
Mm.
until you got to be able to create that which is the most meaningful for you. Beautiful.
Wow, thank you. As you're talking, I'm getting chills. And there's just something really unique about you, Tony. Like, in my field, being in the health and wellness field for 30 years, and knowing you now for all this time, there's just something so beautiful. And I thank you so much for the choices that you've made to be so coherent within your field that you can offer these services to people,
Oh,
to
you
me.
are so welcome. You are so welcome. One of the things I always tell my students and people who are, saying, well, what makes you different? How come I should learn from you? Is that I'm old enough, I'm 73 now. I am old enough to have lived enough life, and I've lived many lives in this life, to have so much experience that anybody who comes to me with a life story, there's going to be something in there that I really resonate with, that I recognize. So I'm teaching from their experience and my experience versus a book or a class I took or my PhD degree or any of those things. They're all great. But in reality, it's coming from what I know is true in this world. And because I've always lived since the time I was cognizant, as a baby, I've always lived in multi dimensions. It's never just been here. I can assist people in doing that as well, because I know how to show them what to let go of so that they can be in that place, which is something that you do often. And I know you do it when you're teaching. You might even not be aware of it, that you move among consciousnesses, so to speak, dimensions, to assist people in letting go of whatever is going on in their body. So the courses that I'm teaching are really my courses from the standpoint of what I truly know.
Yeah, and there's this clarity, like when there's a truth, I can just speak for myself.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no denying it. And the space that you hold, I've written this as a testimonial. You're just a no bullshit type of teacher. You just say it like it is. And your heart is huge. You have compassion, you have empathy, you understand, but you're just not going to put frosting on shit, basically.
Right.
So I appreciate that, because I want to I want to be efficient, and I want to be able to, and there's very few people to lean into, in my path, and there's no judgment about that, but you maintain a very clean and clear space, Toni, and I really appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome. Somebody asked me the other day if, and it was sort of said, it was said from the standpoint of, this is what I do, is this what you do? And the person said, I go to where someone is when I'm working with somebody. I go to where they are. Don't you do that? And in reality, I don't. And I know that's something that you're supposed to do, is, go to where the person is and then lead them to you. When people come to me, they're coming to me because of who and what I am. So why do I want to go to where they are? Why not stay where I am and let them come here? Because that's what they're asking for. And that's that space you're talking about. To be absolutely clear, this is the way it is. Now that I've said that, what do you want to do with it? How do you want to reform your life, transform your life, or not? No judgment. Because this is truth. There's only one truth, and that is that you are I am. And it's just a name for God, because the word God has such a religious connotation to it. But I am is just the I am. And when you come to just that place, everything else falls away. But to do that, you have to be able to be willing to go through the steps. And some people could say work, but work has such a pejorative connotation to it. Who wants to work? Take the steps. It's like walking down a path. You need to walk down that path, take those steps to get to that place, because no one's ever told you this before. And though the relief and the freedom that comes with it is off the charts.
Yeah. I'm, you and I haven't spoke about our history for a while, because we're always in the moment with each other when we're having personal time and when we're working together. I remember, being in this field. I've been studying spirituality since I was 19, and pretty upward path with that. So a lot of workshops, a lot of teachers, crystal healing, energy healing, water therapy, shamanism, and a lot of psychotherapy, you name it. And there was a lot of belief systems that I didn't even know I had before I met you. So it was really peeling that back. And one of the refreshing things that I appreciate about you is that you study and you practice, you embody quantum physics. So you have this incredible channel to know universal truth, which also includes quantum physics. But I really appreciate that you reference quantum physics and the laws of quantum physics with the metaphysics. Like that to me was what really brought coherency into my field, because then I was able to take all the parts and pieces. I didn't have to get rid of anything. I just had to create space to allow it to just come into my field as truth.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And the reason I really dwell, if you would, in the quantum world is because quantum means the smallest piece. So when we're talking about quantum physics, we're talking about the physics of the smallest pieces of our universe. But what quantum physics has discovered is that there's nothing there. So it's really the world of spirit. And there's nothing there until, in quantum physics, there's nothing there until the observer observes something and thereby creates it. So it takes it back to you being the creator. And quantum physics language is really one of the closest languages we have to describe spirituality. Excuse me. Because most of spirituality, the language has some sort of connotation to it that brings up something that makes a person uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I had one of my students tell me, I don't ever want to call myself divine. I just can't do that. It just makes me feel like I'm better than everybody else. And I said, well, everybody else is divine too. And he said, well, I just can't. So if you take those kinds of words out and you use language that is basically scientific, you're still saying the same thing. And you're talking about that which doesn't exist until you create it, which of course makes us the creator of our lives. And it's done with the energetic body that you work with all the time. And also in the newest course that's coming out next week, DNA of Enlightenment, is very, very focused on the messages in our cells that are connected to the plasma of this universe. Our universe is 99.9% plasma, which is basically, plasma is just an ionized electron, and it carries information. So if you say 99.9% of this universe is plasma, that means that you are connected into this electromagnetic field infinitely. And when we talk about the universe, it's sort of like everybody says, well, yeah, the universe. Think about it. We have barely even touched the edges of this galaxy. And there are billions of galaxies infinitely everywhere in this universe, and you're connected to all of them. And that information is in your DNA. So the reality of what is really happening to you, no matter how spiritual you want to make it, is also very, very physical, which goes back to your work, James, because the body has to be in a coherent state. The troughs and the crests of the energy wave have to be equal for it to be balanced and in harmony. And when you do your work the way you do, that's what you're doing. You're bringing people back into that coherency.
Whew. It's kind of bringing up some emotion, some nice emotion, because it's what I have found, that peace and well-being is our natural state.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And through methods like genosomatic yoga, I invite people to release their defense structures and their armoring, which is also called stress. You know, that we react to stress and we hold the memory in our tissues. And through genosomatic yoga and wellness, we can unwind from that and reset the brain to muscle connection. And when that happens, then the things that you're talking about, it just becomes so clear. Like there's just a clear connection. There's less cobwebs, I might say, or like less less distraction for sure. But what am I trying to say? There's less of a filter. Like when we're just in our natural state of the I am, then we can feel that connection. And I feel like that's where the word yoga, you know, and the science of yoga, I believe that's what the masters have been teaching us, is that we are this unified state, but we're just distracted because of our life experiences that we attach to and we judge and all of that, and we become separate. It's all just a temporary untruth. Well, it's true. It's true up to that point, but it can change.
Well, it's true in the moment for the person. And
Yeah.
this is the big step. Because if you realize, if you think about it linearly, if we were going to draw this out on a piece of paper, you have a belief, whatever it is. And that belief creates a perception. It's the way you see the world based on this belief. And as soon as you perceive something, you assign a meaning to it. It means this. I'm watching this, I'm seeing this, I'm experiencing this, and it means this. And because those two things happen based upon the belief you have, it reconfirms the belief. It's like when people say, well, I knew this was going to happen. It reconfirms the belief. So you stay in this constant hamster wheel of experiencing things that you believe are true. When you begin to realize that something you believe isn't true, and you actually, and then one of the things I always encourage my students to do is to take whatever belief you're having a struggle with and find out where it came from. I mean, and really do some research, because every belief that exists is there to control something, certain aspect of the population, how your health is, how your world works. There's some need for control. Then you can decide whether you're going to keep that belief or not. Doesn't mean you have to get rid of it, but know why it's there. Because if it isn't bringing coherency, the troughs and the crests of your energy wave are equal, into your body, it is creating discomfort, disease, stress, all of the things that you, James, have the body release based upon the belief that you have. And when people do this work, it often is like the first things that come up are the easy ones. Well, I believe this and I believe that, and my spiritual beliefs and my food beliefs and my clothes beliefs and my body beliefs. Okay, get those out of the way. Now, let's go to the ones that are kind of the givens, the ones that everybody thinks that, well, everybody knows this. This is right. Those are the ones you want to look at. The ones that you just accept as this is the way life is. Because those are the ones that have got you caught in this pattern, around and around and around. And when you get rid of those, that's where the freedom is. But that can be quite a journey. And it takes some desire. Somebody asked me in an interview last month, he said, I'm trying to remember exactly how he said it, but sort of like, what is it that you think, what is it that keeps people from fulfilling your classes, from getting there in the work that they do with you? What do you think keeps them from doing that? And I said, well, first of all, it's laziness. That's the very first thing. Secondly, it's distraction. There's so many other things going on all the time. And the third thing is the fear of where it's going to take them. So if you can get past well, yeah, I bought the course, but I'm too tired tonight, I can't do this type of thing. And you can get past Netflix or whatever thing is your immediate distraction, then you come to the place where you really want to look, which is if you change yourself a lot, which it will happen with my courses. Like James said, there's no bullshit here. If you change yourself, how's that going to change your life and the people around you, your job, your relationships? And that can be pretty scary. You went through some enormous changes, James, in life's habit, structure, people. I mean, I watched you do it, and you did it with grace, and you did it with humility. And sometimes it was really, really, really hard, but you did it. And it brought you to where you are.
Yeah.
And that's why, like you said in your testimonial, which was great, no bullshit, there isn't any. One of my students said it takes spiritual balls to work with you. Well, it does, because I'm not afraid to confront all of the stuff that you think is real.
You know, this might be a good segue. If you don't mind, I'd like to go back to some of the things that you said, because the intent for this getting together with you today is I wanted to introduce you to my community, which we do share communities. But because I have recently launched Gentle Somatic Yoga and Wellness Level 2, it's an online course. And up till recently, the online courses have mostly been designed for the yoga teacher, yoga therapist, body worker. And especially since this pandemic, it's November 2020 right now as we're recording this, um, I've just had this really strong desire to reach out more to the layperson, the everyday person.
Mhm.
And so these courses are now going to open up, so you don't necessarily need the certification. So I asked Tony to help participate if she wanted, to help create an energy module, because that is what makes level 2 so unique. There's level 1, level 2, and level 3 in our 100-hour program. Level 2 is focused on the energy body and emotions, starting to integrate that as an understanding as we work with the body. So since Tony has been such a significant teacher, as you've been listening and hearing us talk, I feel so blessed, Tony, that you contributed to this course. So getting into that, some of the things you talked about, I want to share my own experience. One of the things that I took away, well, first of all, what you just said last was, what happens is things instantaneously change when you change. Like for me, anyway, I'm aware of it. It's not magic. It's just when I change my frequency, it shifts. And so one of the things that you helped me understand, I still use it to this day, and it's in the level 2 course. I talk about it. I guide you through an experience. Is Tony's talking about these crests and these troughs. So Tony, let me see how I've done as a student to repeat back what I learned from you.
Great.
Okay?
You go for
So
it.
we are standing waves of light. So I like how you've called me the James one. So let's say the James one has this frequency, and it's like an antenna. So everything that I think, everything that I feel, everything that I go through goes out in these waves as light and frequency. And so when I'm at a high point on my wave, which I am right now, it was just my birthday, I am feeling so happy right now because I just feel like things are lining up. I feel good in my body. I feel good in my emotions. I feel connected to my people, my tribe. My health is good. So I'm on this pretty high crest of yeah, just high energy, really enthusiastic, hopeful. And so you can get I think you get what I'm saying. So then at some point, it's highly likely that I might start dipping down into the trough, which means, gosh, not even 3 weeks ago, actually for the last 2 years after my last breakup, it's been tough.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
really integrating some traumas, not just that through the relationship, but through all my life. Like I'm recognizing how trauma is stored in my body. So up until very recently, that's been a challenge, because that's been kind of a trough where I've been kind of like not fully, like I haven't really fully felt passionate come as an expression. I felt more like I was back here instead of here with my energy. My digestion, there's a lot of physical symptoms. I couldn't sleep as easily distracted. Anyway, so I hope you know what I'm sharing is just this kind of low. And so what you've taught me is to accept this. That I have my own unique. I have my own unique top and the bottom where I can just be in. If I want to stay harmonious with my signature, well, that's what I'm calling is my energy signature. If I'm staying coherent and I'm tracking where I'm going, then I don't get too far, and I don't get too high. Or if I do, I know to bring myself back down and just accept that and just keep going with the flow.
Right.
So far, how have I done?
Wonderful. It's great. And basically what you're describing is a sense of contentment. Contentment comes with allowance.
Allowance.
People will say, I want to be happy. Well, okay, fine. If you want to be happy and you're happy, then you're just up. And now here comes sad, because that's the other side of it. But if you're just in a state of contentment, because you're allowing whatever is to be, even the pain of the last 2 years, to just be with it and be content with it, because this is where I am right now and this is what's happening, that keeps you in a state of coherency, which is what people really want. When they say, people say, I want to be a higher frequency. And I always say, well, great, go ahead, become invisible. Because if you were a higher frequency, if you were vibrating faster than you're vibrating right now, we wouldn't be able to see you, because that's all that's going to happen in a higher frequency.
This is funny.
Well, I love words, because, and some
Yeah.
people really get mad at me for playing with semantics, too
Yeah.
much semantics.
Yeah.
Our words betray us. So when somebody says higher, they're actually, the connotation of higher is a religious connotation of being up in the sky where heaven's supposed to be. It isn't a faster frequency isn't higher, it's just faster. What people really want is coherency. That's what they're meaning when they say, I want to be a higher frequency, because the more coherent you are, the more content you are, the more at peace you are, and the more you are aware of yourself as I am, which is what you're basically saying, that no matter how gleeful it was or how hard it was, you stayed in that place of knowing that you're creating this.
Yeah,
So
and
it's-
there is no judgment for me. Like you
no.
taught me, there is no judgment. As well as allowing, there's acceptance,
Mhm.
and it's just information. It's just like, yeah, you feel heavy. It's like there's this self-acceptance. I feel heavy, I feel tired, I feel not as connected. There's no judgment, it's information. And then I look at that information, and then now I know I can make a different choice. What would I like to experience next?
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean I'm going to get out of the trough right away necessarily. I might hang out there until I've experienced that information as long as I want it. And that must be what's happening now. Is I think that I feel ready to have a new experience, but it's certainly not out of denial. I'm not making it happen, like forcing it to happen.
Right.
It's just a natural arise in my wave.
Mhm.
And so, back to this course and talking about energy and coherency, can you expand then, since we are talking about auras and chakras in this course, can you please give your perspective? Well, no, actually, I'm sorry. I'm going to pull back one little step, because you haven't seen the course, Tony, you haven't taken it. Is that the way that I experience myself is that tissues are either tissues, meaning bones, muscles, ligaments, fascia. They can be either overcharged, like a lot of people grind their teeth at night. So, if you touch your jaw, or if you feel the top of your shoulders and it's tense, then I would say then there's a lack of flow of energy. There's this condensed kind of, like, I would say almost like a log jam. We call that stress. And this is normal. All adults have this in their body. But I just view it as there's like this log jam. And then there's other places in the body that the energy's just moving too quickly through. Like that's the way I see it as an intuitive body worker, is that there's undercharged tissue. There's muscles that aren't being used. There's fascia that isn't being moved. And so the energy just kind of slips through. And so I don't know if I'm using the right language to describe this, but that's how I view bodies, is that we're either overcharged or undercharged. And so for me, to make sure that I'm in homeostasis, or that I'm coherent, then that's why I like to move my body in variable ways, and be able to release the log jams or energize parts of my body that need a little more activation.
Mhm.
So how does this resonate with you as I'm talking about this?
Well, I understand what you're saying. I don't see it the same way. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not saying you're wrong. In my world, nothing can get stuck, because in my world, I'm going back to quantum physics here, everything is in movement. So the places that you're calling stuck, or the logjam, is more about, in my world, more about a person's experience in the moment that is taking the energy that exists and giving it a belief and perception that, what's the word I want here? Binds it, if you would, though it's still moving. It's like when you talk about stress in the shoulders, okay? So a person who has tightness in the shoulders, the perception of life is a burden. So their shoulders are tight because they're constantly carrying this burden. So for me, it's all about the energy and the belief and the perception that creates the specific things within the body. Stomach ailments, not being able to stomach the world. Heart ailments, not enough love going in or out. The various energetic meanings of the body themselves. So when you're doing the exercises that you do and you're assisting people in moving those parts, because people talk about the mind-body connection. Well, there's a body-mind connection too. The body influences the mind as much as the mind influences the body. Once the body begins to release that tightness, it gives the person an opportunity to change their perception, because now the meaning in the energy is no longer there. It goes back to quantum physics. It's a person observing the world in a certain way, because we've got these bodies and they look like they're solid, but they're not. They're only solid because our frequency is low enough that they make them solid. If we were vibrating just a teeny bit faster, we would not be solid. So we're really interacting with everything. Like I'm spreading my fingers right now. And as I do, it's like I'm going into jello, because we're interacting with all of this energy. When you change the way you interact with it, so you don't feel like life is a burden, it brings you to a realization that you can do that with your whole body, no matter what's going on. So it's all about belief and perception for me that moves the energy.
That's interesting. We'll have to talk sometime when we're not in an interview like this, because there's other things I want to talk about. But because I think I would like to expand on this from the way that I understand the body, is that the neural pathways that connect the brain to the muscle, mm-hmm. if certain parts of the brain aren't activated through, like for example, if you were to experience stress as a baby and your whole body was accustomed to being tight like this, mm-hmm. then the muscles temporarily forget how to release in a relaxed state. The muscles mm-hmm. don't know how to return to their optimal length in a resting position. Mm-hmm. So I have found, working with psychotherapy, that even if you tell your story, the body still has this reflex, the subconscious reflex to hold on. So mm-hmm. it could be that we're saying similar things, but just from two different disciplines.
Right. That's what's happening.
Because what's that?
That is what is happening. It's the same thing from two different disciplines. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe you and I can talk about this, because I would really like to be able to expand, I guess that's part of this interview, and why I invited you into this course is to help us. Go ahead.
Well, when you're talking about the brain and the body like that, the brain, the synapses in the brain, and I talk about this quite a bit in my course, Decluttering the Mind.
Okay. The
synapses in the brain are firing. They fire electricity. And it's sort of like, on the highway, when the right side of the highway gets really worn down because that's where all the trucks go and they're heavy. Mm-hmm. The same thing happens within the brain. The synapses get used to the same lane over and over and over again. And they're firing a message to the muscles. So if either those synapses aren't firing, the muscle doesn't get the message, or if the synapse wasn't firing, but now it's been taught to, the muscle itself still has to get past the pattern of the atrophy you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's that side of the highway. It's just used to that side of the highway and needing to get into a whole new lane of traffic, so to speak. And it takes time because they're patterns. And it takes time to create a new pattern. So someone could learn one of the routines that you teach and not get any result for, say, 2 weeks, until they do it over and over again and they change the electrical pattern within their body. And then they get the result that they're looking for. So yes, it would be good to talk about this, you and I together.
Yeah, it's juicy. Yeah, because I'm thinking, what I've noticed is in my classes and with my clients one-on-one, once I've helped them, they're doing all the work. I'm guiding them into it. Once they've repatterned, like you're talking about, and they've remembered those connections, the function returns, and now they have a choice point. They're back into a choice point. Instead of reacting, they can respond. Mm-hmm. And what I have found is the psychology, the beliefs, the mental, the emotions they change when the body changes. So I guess you can you can come at it at different angles.
Right.
Like all of a sudden the story doesn't matter anymore. The fact that they have more range of motion and they can feel more pleasure in their body, then depression leaves. You know, they forgive their father, they absolve their mother. You know, they all of a sudden they get a job promotion, and it's just through basically reconnecting with the parts of themselves. So
good.
So can you describe then, you are describing it now, how would you describe the human energy field?
Well, again, in my world, the energy field doesn't exist. I mean, in reality, we talk about the energy field because we're in this dimension. When we're not in this dimension, the energy field doesn't exist. We exist as spirit, which means that there's no energy there. And spirit can use energy to move things.
Hold on a second. My dog Leela is wanting some attention.
Okay.
What's going on? Can you see her? She's right down here.
Oh, sweetheart. Hi, sweetheart.
Are you wanting to say something? Come here. Come here. Come. No? She doesn't want to.
Okay.
Okay. No barking, okay? Not right now. She wants to go for a walk. It's that time.
Okay. Well, we'll finish up so she can go for a walk. I have two recent people that I have been very close to who recently died. One in 2016 and one in 2018. The one in 2016 set up with me ahead of time how we were going to communicate when she goes to the other side through technology.
Oh, wow.
And she communicates with me a lot. She changes things on my computer. She changes names. She changes words. She makes this happen, that happen. The other fellow we didn't have an agreement with, but he's very into cooking and he's very physical. So physical things keep getting changed. The plates in the cupboard get rearranged. Cords on various electrical things get all wound up around something else. And Philip and I know that neither one of us have touched any of this stuff. So spirit can use energy to make things happen, but spirit isn't energy. Having said that, because you asked me to describe the energy body itself is really electromagnetics, which are connected to the plasma of the universe that I was talking about before, which makes us just part of the electric universe. And the electricity of our body is really what is causing the feelings that we get. Say, for instance, if I rub my hands together, I'm losing heat, I'm losing energy, so that it gets warm because the heat itself is coming through my hands and then dissipating out. So you're really talking about electricity and electromagnetics. Part of the issue around all of these subjects, which always comes up in my courses, is that there is so many connotations around all of this stuff. It's like New Age has become its own little cult unto itself. Everything means something and it's really, really important, which in reality it isn't. So the energy body isn't necessarily something that is more special, so to speak, than say our physical body, but the energy body and the physical body are actually one, because this form right here is nothing but slowed down electromagnetic energy. So we are basically just electricity walking around. Our cat is having a fit because the air is really dry in the house right now because it's cold out and we're using a wood stove, even though we have a little kettle on it. The air is really dry, which puts more static electricity in the air. And every time we touch the cat, it gets a shock because the electricity in the air and the electricity in us are joining. And when we touch her, the three come together. And that's really how the energy body is working. So I don't know if I'm answering your question exactly, but that's how I see it and that's how I experience it. And that's basically how it works from a scientific standpoint.
Okay.
So when you're doing work with the energy body of a person, you are actually changing the way their energy flows, and you're teaching them how to change the way their energy flows. It's just like changing the way electricity flows. If you're going to wire a house, you have to wire it through certain conduits and make sure it goes here and goes there and there's a plug. It's the same thing.
I think that's what I was referring to as log jams.
Yeah, if there's a kink in the cord,
Yeah.
then you're going to have a problem, which is the log jam. So does that answer your question?
It creates more questions, which I love, because that's
Okay.
yeah, it's like good. I get to learn something new. So when I feel more towards the trough, like let's just say what I would say people call it depression. I just feel
Yeah.
heavy and just kind of like I don't want to get out of bed. I don't really want to go to the store. I don't want to exercise. There's just this feeling of like density. I would have said before this conversation is that my energy is just like slowed down, or the frequency has changed to create this. Well, the way I would describe it is just almost like it's closer in. Like I feel like everything's just in like this. And today, like I was mentioning, I'm feeling very authentically light and enthusiastic. So it feels like I just feel more space around me. Like it's the opposite of dense, I feel. So is that just am I trying to use words from what I'm perceiving, or is that actually physically or quantum physically happening?
You're creating it. It's a belief.
It's a belief.
Because it's a belief, because you said, I don't want to go to the store. I don't want to exercise. I don't want to do anything. I'm feeling dense. I'm all compacted in. When I feel like I don't want to do anything, I just go, wow, I really don't want to feel like, I don't feel like doing anything. I am just going to be in meditation and read today. I'm not going to do a thing. And I don't feel any density at all. I just feel fine. So, and then you're saying today you feel more open and lighter. It's based upon what you have come, and no judgment here, I'm not putting you down,
Yeah.
but what you have come to believe is the way you are based upon the beliefs that you have. Remembering always, 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 underline many times, it is chemistry in your body and your brain that's creating those feelings. It's actual chemical particles that stimulate what you're experiencing. And in my Decluttering the Mind course, we get way into this, why the mind is cluttered and what the chemistry of the mind is, because the brain and the mind are one, what the brain is actually doing with the chemistry, but it's based upon the belief of what it means to you. So as just like I was saying, for you, it's a denseness. For me, it's like, oh, I really am not going to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Both you and I have very busy lives. I mean, we're handling a lot of different balls at the same time. And I rarely ever say I'm going to put my balls down and not play with them today. But when I do, I do.
Yeah.
And again, it's about the perception of how you see things versus how I see things or anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And you can decide if you want to keep that or if you want to change it. If you say, I don't want to feel this denseness, I don't want to feel, okay, what do you want to do to change it? But first you have to change the belief around what it means. Because that's creating the feeling in your body. We don't feel something without a chemical reaction happening.
Yeah.
And then we assign meaning to it. Oh, I'm so sad. Oh, I'm so happy. Okay. But for somebody else, it would mean something else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've been listening. Definitely, I'm receiving what you're saying. And I was using those examples of like dense as kind of like an exaggeration, because I think I'm more like you, like when you were saying like the balls will never come down. And honestly, I just witnessed it, as I mentioned earlier, as information. So, but I'm just trying to think like what the last physical sensation was. Like I remember almost like on my face, almost just feeling, well, when I was telling you, when I was sharing that I felt kind of withdrawn,
Mm-hmm.
and the sensations of my face feel more frozen. I'm not making this up. That's what it feels like on a sensation level.
Yeah.
And today it just feels just more open, and like there's a sensation that comes with how I feel.
No, I
but
understand.
it doesn't stop me from doing anything. It's just more like, oh yeah, well that's how that feels like. Okay, so for me, it's, I guess I'm talking about sensations and how I feel them. Trying to think of something else that's a little more tangible rather than my face, because that was kind of a strange one. Um, let's see. Well, I can't think of any right now. I guess I'm just in the receiving mode of what you're saying.
Well, let's take your face. Okay, so your face felt frozen.
Yeah, just kind of like
Mhm.
lifeless, kind of like sagging or like,
Right. The feeling is created by what you believe it means. So when you feel your face doing that, you assign a meaning to it. It feels saggy. Somebody else could say it feels happy or it feels wide. I mean, it doesn't make any difference. It's just a word you assign to it, which has a meaning to you, but it's based upon the chemical response in your body. You don't want your face to feel saggy. I mean, I don't believe you do. So it assigns a pejorative feeling to it. And even when you come to the place where you say, well, it is just what it is, you have to really, really feel that to remove the chemistry that it shouldn't be that way. It's again that hamster wheel loop I was talking about. The belief creates the feeling that it goes back and reaffirms the belief.
can it ever be in reverse? Can there be a feeling and then you, like you,
You get the feeling. Yes, is the answer.
okay.
You get the feeling. I always like to use this example when people talk about this. Pretend you go to a dinner party. You're invited to a dinner party, and you walk in the room and you see somebody there that you absolutely hate for a lot of reasons. The very first thing that happens is you feel the hate. I wish I wasn't there. What am I going to do now? This is awful. All those feelings come up. And then the mind, the brain, begins to just flood you with all of these different chemicals. And it happens, I'm saying this linearly because that's how you talk.
I
But it
understand.
all happens at once.
Yeah.
And then your thought is, what am I going to do now? Versus you walk into that dinner party and you see somebody you haven't seen in a long time that you just adore, and you're flooded with, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. Again, you get all the serotonin coming up. It's just fantastic. The dopamine is going, oh my Lord, this is fantastic. And you run over and you hug the person. So the feeling comes, and in sync with that feeling, the chemistry of your body begins to act. Some people in the first instance would hit fight or flight, and they'd have to decide if they were going to take the person on or leave. So the adrenaline and the cortisol is flowing. The two come together. So when you ask me the question, can it be a feeling first? Yes, but there's really not a first. It's instantaneous. And this comes up in my new course that I'm doing on DNA. The changes in our DNA that are happening right now, as we're sitting here talking, everybody's listening, everybody's viewing, you and me, our DNA is constantly changing, replicating, fixing, repairing at a speed that your mind cannot conceive of. Our minds cannot even fathom how fast it happens. It's faster than instantaneous. It is constantly happening. And this is an example of what goes on in our bodies that creates the chemistry. So the feeling and the chemistry work together. And then the thought comes up. People think thoughts come first and feelings come second, but that's not true. As organisms, we felt our way along way before we could think. And then we eventually became humans, but we never lost that. We're still connected to the amoeba. So we feel our way through everything, which creates the chemistry, and then we start thinking about what needs to be done. So the answer is yes. you definitely can feel something and then create the chemistry in your body, but it'll happen at the same time. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to start winding this down pretty soon because it's been almost an hour since we've been talking. But let me see if I could share something with you that I experienced in my classes.
Sure.
So let's just say I showed up in Germany. I've never taught in Germany yet.
Mhm.
And there's a class of 30 people. And I walk in and, I'm greeting everybody and I'm acknowledging everybody. I'm asking people I have a translator, I don't speak German. And I'm asking people, what are they experiencing in their bodies? Some might say, oh, that they just had a hip replacement, or they have a chronic neck pain, chronic back pain. So I'm registering this and I'm designing my class to hopefully offer some tools that those people can use to help unwind from this.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sensitive to group energy, and so I'm just in my mind, and in my awareness, I'm just holding the space as I'm guiding people through. And it's not a whole bunch of thinking. Once I get past that point of kind of receiving the group, then I just start, and then things just start happening, and I'm just watching this person move like that, and then that will inspire me to make something up. Oftentimes, new movements are created in the moment, and then I can feel like the group, and I want to ask you, is this a belief of mine or is this my experience? Is the energy, what I would call energy, starts shifting in the room. Like it gets quieter, it gets stiller. I can see people, I can feel people have less thoughts because their body's just softer. And towards the end of the class, I'm watching everybody lay in Shavasana, which is laying on your back with your hands facing up and your legs extended, that there's just this sense of peace. And then people get up and they sit up, and there's just, everybody looks different. In my perception, everybody looks different, and things are slower, people are talking slower. So it's my perception that the energy was kind of like up here. I'm saying up, but not meaning up, but more excited maybe. And then through the class, it's getting slower and quieter and stiller. And when people leave, there's this sense that there's been something has changed.
Mhm.
So can you use that example fitting into some of the things you've been talking about? Or is that just all belief that I just made about
First of
feeling
all,
that?
we want to remember that everything is belief. Okay.
Okay.
Everything. Even somebody who says, I don't have a belief system, that's their belief system.
Okay.
So we'll start there. Oops, got a puppy going on.
Leela's playing games with me. She's going, okay. I'm sorry, Tony.
It's okay. No, she's saying, could you please stop now, Dad?
Yeah.
All right. So everything's a belief. People who say, I don't have a belief system, that's their belief system. I mean,
So everything I just said is a belief.
It's all belief. Okay. This is what you believe. And when you accept that, when we've accepted everything that we experience is because of what we believe, then we can just put that on the shelf.
Okay.
We don't have to sit there and go, oh my gosh, is this a belief? Because it's all belief.
Okay.
So you walk into the room, and the sensitivity of you that you're talking about, going back to the electromagnetics of the body, is all of this, and I'm just going to use words here because we need to use words, is all of this electricity that is connected together, because even in this air around my hands is electricity. Okay. So in this connection, remembering that we are all one, and I don't mean that in a woo-woo connotation of, I want to be in the oneness. We are all united as I am. There's no separation between us. We just look like it because of our vibration. So you're feeling, when people are talking to you, you're feeling what they're experiencing to the degree that you feel it. And you're designing the remedies for those feelings and issues they have on the fly, which is allowing the energy to settle because they have confidence in you. That's their belief. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. And you are confidently showing them how to release the areas of their body that are painful, which brings them down, 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 down. Not that going down is negative,
Yeah.
but you say like the energy is up. It brings it down so that it is more in a state of coherency and contentment with what is going on. What would be really fun, and you can think about whether you want to do this or not, and it's one of the things that I teach. In fact, I'm teaching it on Saturday for a group, the listening conversation, is to ask each of the people, and this is going to be, you're going to get the answers that you really want dependent upon how you verbalize it. Ask them what they are really feeling in the moment. Not what you, and let them know it's not what you think I want to hear. What are you really feeling right now? And see where they are, which is going to change your belief about what happened. Not that they're going to tell you something bad, but you're going to find out what's really happening in their bodies, and it's going to change the way you see the energy in the room. I find that probably one of the most adventuresome, fun, exciting things to do with everything is to ask others what's going on when you believe you have a perception that you think is correct. Not that you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. All I'm saying is to find out. Like you said, everybody feels as though they're all relaxed, and I'm sure they look that way. And I'm sure they are to a certain degree, but to find out what's really, really happening with them in that moment.
Yeah, that's good. 'Cause I do that in my classes a lot. Like we'll go around if I have time,
Yeah.
and people will have a chance to say one word or a couple of words, especially when I'm doing teachers trainings.
Yeah.
And so I get it that way. But so can you elaborate just a little bit more? Like as a feeling, do you say, can they just interpret whatever that means? Or are you saying physically or mentally or emotionally, whatever the word, whatever people translate feeling to be?
So you're asking me what you would say to the people?
Well, you're what I hear you saying is it would be a fun thing, an experiment to ask my groups next time I'm teaching, how do you feel? And then receive that. So you don't elaborate on what level they're feeling. Because oftentimes I'll say, how are you feeling in your body, for example?
Oh, I see. Okay, no. What I would say is, and are you sitting in the middle of the room so that you can see them all?
No, I'm typically on the in a circle of joined the circle. I'm going to turn some lights on in my house here, Tony. Just give me 1 second.
Okay. But you can see everybody.
Yes.
Okay, so when you say this, you want to look around the room. You want to really let them know that you want to get in, so to speak, to where their psyche at the moment. And just look at the first person and say, now, I would like to know what you are really feeling in this moment. Period. Whether it's the body, the mind, the emotions, it doesn't make any difference because they're all connected. Just what are you feeling? To see what they're going to say. I'm feeling relief. I'm feeling pain. I'm feeling like I want to leave. I'm feeling like I want to do more of these courses. I'm feeling like I don't like the person across from me. I mean, whatever is happening within them, what's happening for you right now? And don't try to please me. Just tell me what's really happening. And just see where they are. And I'm not saying that it's going to do something to the course or the people, but it's going to assist you in seeing how different all the beliefs are about what happened. And I would assume that you probably get over half who are feeling relief, less pain, more at peace, more contentment, whatever words they use. But I bet you anything, having done a lot of workshops, that you're going to get some people who are having issues and they don't want you to know because they're there to act as though everything's fine because that's what they believe you want.
This is inspiring me, Tony. Once these travel restrictions lift,
yeah,
I would love to invite you into some of my groups. You know, we've done one group before,
right,
which was lovely back in the day when we were in Utah. It would be nice to have you come join us in person and help facilitate some of these topics. And
that would be fun. No,
wouldn't it be fun?
I accept right now.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today and talk. It's just been such a pleasure to connect with you. And I feel like a student all over again. I'm always learning something new, and I love that. Like I want new experiences. I intend to change and to continue to bring my field more into a state of coherency. So thank you for the conversation.
You are so welcome. And I will send you a graphic that you can use with this video to show people how they can get a hold of me.
Great.
Because if anybody wants to talk about my courses, if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I offer a 20-minute free conversation on Zoom or Skype or FaceTime, however you want to do it, to talk about anything that you want to get involved with me. And we'll put the information of how to get a hold of me at the end of this video.
Perfect. Yeah, it really is the one-on-one that I've benefited myself, because you can just really drop in. If we were having this conversation about my process, it's just a different experience. I'd highly recommend that you all, if you feel inspired, please reach out to Tony, and we will have a way that you can get a hold of her. And with the title slide, we'll make a title slide.
Yeah.
An ending slide.
Okay, super. Thank you so much, James.
Okay.
This has been wonderful.
Thank you, Tony.
Okay.
Lots of love.
You too. Bye-bye.